Hello, everybody. It's Willie and Renee again. And we have our retired shirts on. Yes. Put your shirt up. His even has already on the beach, already under the beach. Yes, yes, yes. We mean this thing. We're retired. What are we talking about today, Willie James?
Today, we're going to talk a little bit about retirement and what people do at retirement.
Okay.
And especially, I like the idea that people have a desire, especially people who are really into just helping people,
Mm.
having that desire to go out and do ministry after retirement because they have the time to do so. And they
Mm.
just have that yearning and desire to be able to help people in a special way. And that's something that people look at a lot and try to do it in a professional manner so that they could be even more so respected and appreciated. And the door is open wider for them.
Mm.
And they're not necessarily asking for pay or big pay or anything like that. Some just feel that their calling is upon their lives. And and I was surprised because I was reading some stuff and it came up about how people who are retired can go into a type of ministry
Mhm.
that they don't even think of,
Mhm.
during their early, working years. But in retirement years, I think it's very helpful and meaningful for people to do. And that's something that you have good experience in, that you can
Mhm.
share your knowledge and your uh,
Okay.
ministry with others.
Mhm.
And so, will you tell people what it
Okay.
is that you do and what you've done, and
Okay. Well,
perhaps how we others can get into it?
um, I'm a career psychologist in marriage and family therapy. And I had a calling on my life to go into chaplaincy. And first of all, I'm like, yeah, no, that cannot, that is not what I do. Okay. First of all, I'm afraid of dead people. I hate hospitals. And I thought all chaplains were just older white Catholic priests. And since I wasn't any of those things, I thought, well, this is not for me. And I didn't think the two, my career and the chaplaincy went together, but it did very well. And I had the opportunity. I was the director for chaplaincy at a major hospital. And I also taught at a university, and I taught theology students, and I taught them pre counseling and pre chaplaincy. And they had to do practicums and things, so they did it in my hospital. And as a result, we had all the students there, but I needed more chaplains. And so I went to different churches and asked people if they would be interested in chaplaincy, and explain to them exactly what it was and what it was involved. And, they could volunteer or, we could pay a little bit, whatever. And to my surprise, boy, I was just overloaded. And people who had said I had never thought of that, or retired pastors. And so I allowed whoever wanted to come into my class to come in. And then I did some other classes for people for not for credit so that they could understand what chaplaincy was and what it was about. And almost all of them were retirees from different forms of ministry, or some who had just been in corporate America and they thought, now I have a chance to do ministry and I would like to. And so it was just a blessing for me and for them. Some went back to chaplaincy, to take the CPE and actually get certified as chaplains. And then others just did it on a volunteer basis, all of that. And one thing that they learned is there's so much more to chaplaincy than just, dealing with people who are dying or who are having, in grief and distress. There's lots of different things. You have births and you have all kinds of celebrations. And as a chaplain with CPE, you're allowed to, you can do marriages and all sorts of great things, not just necessarily, in a hospital dealing with those who are going through things like that. Um, so we learned, I taught them a lot of the different chaplains. There's prison chaplaincy, there's chaplaincy in schools, even in elementary schools, they're beginning to go to that. There's workplace chaplains, there's firemen, there's police chaplains, there's those that just work with children and with hospice and, all kinds of variants, all kinds of situations. Those who are disaster relief chaplains and they are called to different areas when there's a disaster in different areas, and they can work for the Red Cross, and they would be the first on the scenes to help, when there's disasters. It's far deeper than just like I thought, before I got into it. And then I also realized how so many other occupations that people have can be a benefit with chaplaincy, and it's not just the ministry. We'll use something very random. Someone has to go to court, a kid or whatever, and they have the court chaplains who come and just are support for that child to be there and to guide that parent through, what's happening, what's going on, and excuse me. And if you have a tendency toward loving children and helping, things like that, it's just great. And so that's one. And then this accountant, he decided that he wanted to go into chaplaincy. He was like, I don't think anything, about accounting could, why could that, be involved in chaplaincy? I was like, oh, well, let me tell you, is in your field, you have a lot of people who are stressed about, um, you know, money and this, that, and the other. And you can actually help them through that process. If you do the accounting part of it, then you can also coach them through. I can go with you to the IRS if you need to, for whatever the issue is there, or I can look over everything with you and be that support for you, lots of different things. And he actually went into it, and he does workplace chaplaincy, where he goes in to workplace situations. It's lots of different areas. And like I said, most of the chaplains that volunteered were retirees. And the thing that's great about that is they've had so much life experience themselves. They've been ministers all along, even if they didn't call it that, just being a support, being a listening ear. Right, right. We just didn't call it that. And then you can make good money after you've retired. You can make good money also being a chaplain. As I say, this sounds a little morbid, but you can do funerals. There's lots of places where funeral homes, and they pay very well to do a funeral because the person may be unchurched or, and want the funeral at the funeral home. And they would call me all the time. Do you have a chaplain? And we'll pay $200 or $150 for an hour or whatever. And you go and you give the message and you do whatever the family would like for you to do. You meet them a little bit ahead of time and you stand in that gap for them. And that's extra money that just, doing that. The same with weddings is they may not, be churched or want this kind of a ceremony. They want a civil ceremony, but they don't want to just go before the justice of the peace. They want it in the backyard or whatever. And you can do that, and get paid very well. And it's only a few hours work, and you can get $200 or $300, and then get sent to Bahamas because they want you to come to Bahamas and do their wedding, right? For the destination, and they'll pay for it, and you can stay an extra day, you and your family. But it just involves a lot. And so I was led to write a manual, a guide, and it's called The Art of Visitation, for people who have been in ministry but still may want, that extra little nudge of how to handle different situations and things. It's a 50 modules of all different kinds of ways to chaplain and the situations and how to visit and all different kinds of things and what to say and what not to say. And because even ministers, as pastors, you're taught a lot, but a lot you're not taught. And a lot of them we're not taught. What do I say in this situation? Or how do I handle this? When you're agonizing and not knowing what to say when you walk in that hospital room or in that domestic violence situation or whatever, situation or chaplain you happen to, be in. And so this module, uh, with God's help and his guidance, I was able to write it. And so, if you're interested or you just want to maybe share it with someone else, then go to the YouTube channel, The Art of Visitation. And it's some videos there, and you can order, that tell you more about what it is and what the Art of Visitation, the guide is. And I called it a guide because um, most people, all people have dealt with different kinds of situations in their life. They just didn't know it was ministry. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job and what to do. I'm just coming alongside you, being that support as somebody who has navigated that on lots of different levels, working in chaplaincy and being a therapeutic counselor as well. Those two, come together and sort of how do I react, if I'm in the mental health and the behavioral health ward, how do I meet their need? All of the different things, from going into prison, it tells you where you need to sit and stand and the laws of it, things like that, and and when to go and things and when it's over your head, all those different kinds of situations that it helps. And so it'll give you a great overview. Even as you go through CPE training, they feel like you should already know how to visit. And sometimes you don't. And so it's great for that as well. And then if you're not going into the CPE training, you're just wanting to volunteer or whatever. And I'm open to, for hospitals or CPE training programs, if they would like, to contact me, they can, that's a little shameless advertisement, about how to purchase the modules, or whatever the case may be.
And how will they contact you again?
Through the Art of Visitation. You go on the channel, the Art of Visitation, and you can see, the videos, but it also has an email address there where you can email me and, ask me different questions.
Okay. Well, Renee, we thank you for giving us information. I will get into it. I'm certainly enjoying my retirement, but there's always things to do, and certainly always willingness to be able to talk and help others. So thank you. Please subscribe to our channel and give us a like on this video if you found something that was interesting to you and that you're willing to share with us or with someone else. Feel free to always touch base with Dr. Renee Neal at The Art of Visitation on YouTube or Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. Look forward to talking with you later on.
Bye.